Welcome back, children. Let us continue with the line-wise paraphrasing of Act 1, Scene 2. So Nerissa continues. She says, "How say you by the French Lord Monsieur Le Bon?" So she's asking Portia, what is your opinion about the French Lord? Monsieur means Mr. Le means the. Bon means good. So what is your opinion about Mr. the Good? Portia. God made him, therefore let him pass for a man. She says, just because he is a creation of God, therefore let him be accepted as a man. In truth, I know it is a sin to be a mocker. She says, I know, honestly speaking, it is a sin to make fun of somebody and laugh at someone. Mocker is who makes fun of someone. But why he hath a horse better than the Neapolitans? Well, she says, well, he talks more of his horse more than the Neapolitan prince. A better bad habit of frowning than the Count Palatine. And he has a more exaggerated bad habit of frowning just like Count Palatine. He is every man in no man. Every man in no man means that he has everyone's characteristics but none of his own. If a throstle sing, he falls straight a capering. So throstle is a bird, it's also called the thrush. So if he hears to the song of a thrush, he starts jumping. A capering means he starts jumping. He will fence with his own shadow. He is so foolish that he will draw his sword and start fighting with his own shadow. If I should marry him, I should marry 20 husbands. And if I get married to Monsieur Le Bon, it would be like getting married to 20 men because he has the characteristics of different people. If he would despise me, I would forgive him. It would be better if he hates me. If he hates me, I would be able to forgive him. For if he love me to madness, I shall never requite him. But if he loves me passionately, love to madness means loves me passionately, I will never be able to return his love. Nerissa, what say you then to Falconbridge, the young Baron of England? So she says, okay, what is your opinion about Falconbridge, who is the young Baron from England? Portia, you know I say nothing to him, for he understands not me, nor I him. So she says, you know that I don't say anything to him because he does not understand my language, and neither do I understand his language. He hath neither Latin, French, nor Italian. He does not understand Latin, French, or Italian, the three languages which I know. And you will come into the court and swear that I have poor pennyworth in English. And you can come into the court and you can swear that I have very little knowledge. Poor pennyworth means very little knowledge in the English language. So he is a proper man's picture. That is, he is a man of a very fine appearance. But alas, who can converse with a dumb show? But it's really sad that a person cannot talk to a dumb person. That is, a person who is without words. How oddly he is suited. Just look at the way he is dressed. I think he bought his doublet from Italy. Now, doublet is a jacket. She says, I think he has bought his jacket from Italy. His round hose in France. Round hose are breeches, and he's brought his breeches from France. His bonnet from Germany. Bonnet is a hat, and he's bought his hat from Germany, and his behavior everywhere. And he has picked up his manners from everywhere. So Nerissa replies, what think you of the Scottish lord, his neighbor? So she says, okay, what is your opinion about the lord from Scotland, who is the neighbor of Falconbridge, the young Baron of England? Portia, that he hath a neighborly charity in him, for he borrowed a box of the ear of the Englishman. So she says, well, he has a charity of a neighbor in him because he was given a box on the ear by the Englishman. He was boxed on his ear by the Englishman, and he swore he would pay him back when he was able, and he swore that he would take revenge when he was able to do so. I think the Frenchman became his surety and sealed under for another. And she says, I think the Frenchman, Monsieur Le Bon, he became the guarantee that the Scottish lord would repay his debt. Now here reference is made to the constant assistance and support that the French people give the Scottish people whenever the Scottish people have a misunderstanding or a quarrel with the English. Nerissa, how like you the young German, the Duke of Saxony's nephew? So Nerissa continues on to speak about the sixth suitor, that what is your opinion about the young German, that is the Duke of Saxony's nephew? What do you think about him? So Portia replies, very wily in the morning. So Portia says, well, his behavior is really very bad in the morning when he is sober, that is when he is not drunk, and most wily in the afternoon, and his behavior is worse in the afternoon when he is drunk. So his behavior gets worse in the afternoon when he is under the influence of alcohol. When he is best, he is a little worse than a man, and when he is at his best behavior, you can see he's a little worse than a man, and when he is worst, his behavior is the worst, he is a little better than a beast. So he's a little better off than an animal at that time. And the worst fall that ever fell, I hope I shall make shift without him. She says, and if the worst that ever could happen, if it happens, then I shall manage to go without him. That is, if he chooses the correct casket, then I would not accept his proposal for marriage. I would better go along without. Portia says, if you should offer to choose and choose the right casket, you should refuse to perform your father's will if you should refuse to accept him. So Nerissa says that if he offers to choose and if he chooses the correct casket and then you refuse to get married to him, then you will be going against the wishes of your father if you refuse to get married to him in that case. So Portia says, therefore, for fear of the worst, I pray thee. So she says, therefore, because of this fear of the worst, I request you, set a deep glass of Rhenish wine on the contrary casket. I request you to place a large glass of white wine made from the grapes grown in the Rhine Valley, which is called the Rhenish wine, on the contrary casket, means on the wrong casket. For if the devil be within and that temptation without, because even if there is a devil inside that wrong casket and the temptation of that large glass of Rhenish wine outside the casket, I know he will choose it. I am sure that he will choose it. I will do anything, Nerissa, or I will be married to a sponge. So she says, I am ready to do anything, Nerissa. Means before I get married to a sponge, means a drunkard. I don't want to get married to a drunkard. So Nerissa says, you need not fear, lady, the having of any of these lords. So Nerissa says, my dear lady, you need not fear that you will have to accept any of these lords. They have acquainted me because they have informed me with their determinations, that is with their decisions, which is indeed to return to their homes, and they have told me that they are going back to their homes and to trouble you with no more suit and not to trouble you any further with the request to marry, unless you may be unless you are won over by some other sort than your father's imposition depending on the caskets, unless you are won by some other means than the conditions imposed by your father, which is based on the choice of the caskets. Portia, if I live to be as old as Sibylla, I will die as chaste as Dinah. Now, there are two allusions here. First is Sibylla. Now, the Sibyl is a prophetess in the Roman mythology. God Apollo granted her as many years of life as there were sand grains she was holding in her hand. And here she is referred to as a traditional old woman. And Dinah is the goddess of virginity. She is also a goddess of virginity in the Roman mythology. So here she is referred as a pure goddess. So Portia says that if I live to be as old as an old woman, Sibylla, then I will die as pure as goddess Dinah, the goddess of virginity, unless I be obtained by the manner of my father's will, unless someone comes and chooses the correct casket according to the lottery of caskets made by my father. I am glad this parcel of verse is so reasonable. So she says, I'm really very happy that this crowd or this group of suitors are so reasonable. For there is not one among them, but I dote on his very absence, because there is not even one among this crowd of suitors for whom I long for his presence, that is, whose absence I will regret. And I pray God grant them a fair departure, and I pray to God that they may have a happy journey back home. Nerissa, do you not remember, lady, in your father's time, a Venetian, a scholar, and a soldier that came hither in the company of Marquis of Montferrat? So Nerissa is asking Portia that, lady, don't you remember that when your father was alive, there was a young citizen of Venice over here who was a scholar, that means an intelligent, educated man, as well as a soldier, who came hither, means who came here in the company of Marquis of Montferrat. Here the Marquis of Montferrat is the title of an Italian nobleman. So who came over here in the company of an Italian nobleman. Don't you remember him? Do you remember that man? Portia, yes, yes, it was Bassanio, as I think so was he called. She says, yes, yes, I remember. It was Bassanio. I think that was his name. So she clearly remembers his name. True, madam. Nerissa says, yes, true, that's true, madam. He of all the men that ever my foolish eyes looked upon was the best deserving a fair lady. Yes, ma'am, I remember. Out of all the men that my foolish eyes have seen, he is the man who best deserves getting married to you, madam. I remember him well, and I remember him worthy of thy praise. So Portia replies that, yes, I do remember him very clearly, and I am sure that he is worthy of your praise. He deserves the praise that you are bestowing upon him. Enter a servant. How now? What news? So Portia asked the servant, well, hello, what is the news that you have brought for me? Servant, the four strangers seek for you, madam, to take their leave. So here the servant says that the four suitors, they are wishing to see you, madam, to take your leave, to take permission from you to leave and say goodbye. There is a forerunner. Forerunner means a messenger, and there is a messenger from the fifth, the Prince of Morocco, and there is a messenger who's come from the fifth suitor, the Prince of Morocco, who brings the word, who has brought the message that Prince's master will be here tonight, that the Prince of Morocco, who is his master, will be here tonight. Now here the four strangers are mentioned, but we have already been introduced to six suitors. So the possible explanations for this is, there can be three. First, that Shakespeare seems to have forgotten that he's already mentioned six suitors. Or it can be that the Scottish and the English lords, they were just added to make the audiences laugh and be happy. Or third explanation could be the servant regards two of these suitors with hatred. He does not like them and he does not feel the need to even mention their names or to count them in the list of the suitors. Portia, if I could bid the fifth welcome with so good a heart as I bid the other for farewell. She says, if I could welcome the fifth suitor as gladly, so good means as happily and gladly as I am saying goodbye to the other four suitors, I should be glad of his approach, then I would be happy of his arrival. If he were to have the condition of a saint and the complexion of a devil, if the fifth suitor you are mentioning, he has the qualities or the nature of a saintly person and the outward appearance, complexion means the outward appearance of a devil, I had rather he should shrive me than wive me. Then I would prefer that he should listen to my confession rather than getting married to me. Come, Nerissa. She calls out to Nerissa, Nerissa, follow me. Sirrah, go before. Sirrah means fellow or boy, addressing the servant. You go ahead of us. Whilst we shut the gate upon one wooer, another knocks at the door. So she's talking to Nerissa that while we are closing the door, after the one suitor has left, wooer is a suitor, an eligible bachelor who has come to try his luck at the lottery of caskets. As we are closing the door upon one suitor, another suitor comes knocking at our door. I hope it is clear till here. In my next video, I will come with the line-wise paraphrasing of Act 1, Scene 3. Thank you.